Welcome to the vlog, part 2 of sewing my friend's faves. That's what the first video was supposed to be called. There was not very much sewing. I don't know if there's going to be sewing in this. I'm knitting a lot. That's sort of part of a different video. Maybe I'll still paint the wall of my living room. That's really all we can hope for. And sew the cuffs of my dress that I need to fix. It's so ridiculous. It'll take me like 15 minutes. But not today.
No, because we know it's the mountain lion's too tough. Alright, we're gonna go for lunch after this.
Hello, and we're back for Friends Faves Part 2. I took like a week off of doing this vlog. Well, not of reading entirely, but of vlogging, because I was spending the holiday with my family. Me and Connor spent Christmas with our families. We had an amazing time. It was so fun. We were driving all over the place, seeing everybody. What a time. And we are finally back home, and I've got some updates to make. So when we last spoke in the last vlog, I had finished, I think, 3 Friends faves. I finished Yours Truly for Bailey. I finished the All Rise for the Honorable Perry T. Cook for Martine, and I finished The Serpent and the Wings of Night for Ashley. And I had been starting a couple of things for Adriana and not finishing them, so I was like, let me take a quick break from that and let me start The Color Purple by Alice Walker for Danielle. And I have since finished that. I listened to the audiobook, which is read by the author, which is so cool. I should verify that, but I feel very sure that at the very beginning of the audiobook it was like read for you by the author. So, and it was not like an introduction, like there was no little intro. Okay, well, if I find out that that's not true, I'll come back and tell you. I loved that book. 5 stars. Phenomenal. Such a great story. Such interesting little things to think about. Big things to think about, too. I really loved it. I loved the, like, epistolary style that it had at times, although it wasn't entirely like that, I don't think. Or maybe it was, and I just couldn't tell from the audiobook. The audiobook was really good, and I think especially for reading a book that has like accents in it, that has dialect, vernacular, it can be a struggle to really get into the story, because I find myself just like, I don't know, it just, anytime you put the book down, then when you pick it back up again, it takes like time to get back into like the voice and such, for me at least. So having the audiobook where it's just being read to me like that was just like, I kept up a lot better. And I really loved it. It's a story that follows 2 sisters, and they end up separated. One of them gets married off against her will, kind of, ends up in a pretty awful marriage after having a pretty awful childhood, and then sort of falls in love with a previous lover of her husband's, a woman, a singer, and like, so it's a lesbian novel in that way, but the other sister ends up being a missionary in Africa and sort of raising children that aren't hers in this like totally, new place, obviously, and just like the way that they communicate, the way that they think and talk to each other throughout like their entire life is what the story is. And just, I thought it was phenomenal. It's my favorite so far. Okay. So that was 4 that are finished. And I also started 2 others. I started To Like the Lightning. I think I started that in the last vlog, maybe not, which is Lizzie's pick. And I'm really excited because I do really like it so far, but I haven't had a ton of time to just like really sit and read. Like, I just was able to read it only like a few pages at a time, which is not a great way to be reading that book. So I sort of just like wasn't reading it at all, because I knew that I didn't have the like time and energy to invest in like spending a chunk of time with this book, because it's a science fiction novel. It's set far, far in the future. I think the year like 2550 or something, 2450 something. And sort of like at the beginning, the narrator says that he's going to write this in the style of an 18th century novel, for whatever reason. And so it is written in a slightly old-fashioned voice, but it's so futuristic. It's just, that's a very interesting choice and concept. And there's a lot going on, and nothing is explained immediately. So you will hear a word, or you'll hear about a concept or a character, or like a type of character a few times, and you're just hoping that eventually it's going to be explained, and eventually, so far, things have been explained. So it's not an easy read because of that, but again, when I was reading it, I was really enjoying it. I'm excited now that we're back home to get back to it. And the final book, I also started an audiobook, Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll, and this is Kayla, one of Kayla's favorites. It was on at least one other list as well. I think this was just like a well-loved book this year by my friend group. And what I have to say about that is I finished The Color Purple on my drive to work on Friday, and then after work I was driving straight to my parents' house, and the first line of the audiobook, like the opening of that audiobook, says like Montclair, New Jersey, like as the setting of like the first chapter. And I just like so didn't anticipate that, because I was pretty sure that this book was set in Florida, and I was in the car at that very moment heading not to Montclair, New Jersey, but very close to Montclair. So that was just like kind of fun little, I was like, wait a minute, that's what I'm doing. But then that was sort of like the present day timeline, and then it flashed back to Florida a while ago. And it's a book that is clearly heavily based on the Ted Bundy murders in Florida specifically. But he's not mentioned by name at all. And I'm not sure about the names of some of the girls, because one of the names sounded very familiar, but only one. And I read a nonfiction book about him very recently, so I thought I would have recognized it. But it's called Bright Young Women, and it's it's about these bright young women who lived through a horrific event, and sort of like how that impacted them, and also how the like media coverage and the pop culture reaction to like those horrific murders affected them. So I really was enjoying it. I couldn't listen to all that much of it, frankly. Like, I had to switch to podcasts at a certain point in my drive, because the Ted Bundy murders were extremely horrific, and like it was just tough to listen to. So yeah, but I'm excited to get back to that one, and to finish To Like the Lightning, and to read one of Adriana's faves. And I don't know if I'm going to go back to one of the two that I had already started for her, or if I'm going to pick something else that I'm feeling more in the mood for. But yeah, my goal this year with the Friends Faves, like I said in the last video, which if you didn't watch that, I'll link it below or something, is to like give everyone their best chance. I want to pick the book on everyone's list that I really think I'm going to love. So if I'm starting a book and I'm just like not really having a good time, or wanting to keep reading it right now, I'll just pick something else. And Adriana has a long list, and I think our tastes overlap in a lot of ways. So I'm going to take another look at that, but I have an audiobook and an ebook right now. So that's all I need. And it is December 29th. So I have 2 more days in this year, and I had really hoped to finish all of these books by then, but I don't think in the next 2 days I'm going to finish all of this reading. So this is just a project that's going to carry on a little bit into 2025, but I'm really glad that I got so many read already, and I've liked so many of them, and this is just such a fun project. So yeah, I'll try to be a good vlogger. Projects wise, TBD.
so wet.
Happy 6th annual New Year's Day hike. Yeah. Okay, we have a lot of catching up to do. I'm honestly not even sure when we last spoke, but Happy New Year. Things are happening. Let's see what's happening. I did end up just actually earlier today finishing doing the stitching for these pants. Let me show you the inside of the crotch. Here it is. I left this fabric because I don't know what the fraying is going to be like, and I maybe should have like done something to the edges, but I sure didn't. So we're gonna see. I've just been waiting for the right moment when I can film soaking this in a bowl of water, because the stuff is supposed to dissolve and I think it'll be fun. I've been painting. I got a bunch of painting done on my wall in there, and I'm planning to do some more of that tomorrow morning before work. And so that's a huge relief that that's all happening. We went on our New Year's Day hike, which was so wonderful. I've been getting outside. I went for a run at the gym that we might be joining. I just did a day pass just to like see what the vibe was. Today, that was good. That was good. I have a goal this year to run 100 miles. So 2 down. Yeah, all that's good, but the reading. I've just been struggling with like finding a time to sort of talk about the reading, but a couple of things happened. The first thing, I guess, is that I've DNF'd to Like the Lightning, which was one of Lizzie's favorites, and I feel quite bad about it because I think she specifically was like, Ruby, you're gonna like this, and it was just not happening. There's some stuff about gender in that book. It's a science fiction, very future, and it just, there were some discussions about gender and the way that gender exists in the setting versus how it's being like related to us, like the, you know, the current day sensibilities, and like related to us, like how gender is different in this future than it is in our time, and why that matters. I just like, there was just some stuff. It felt very much like it was written by a man in the 1970s. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I think that some of the stuff going on, again, in that gender space, it was like trying to defy, or like, it ended up like overemphasizing gender norms to me, instead of sort of being an argument, or being like offering a way to get out of gender as a binary, so yeah, I feel like I can see where this could bring up some good discussions, but I just also could not get my head into the story. It was taking me so long, and I just was like dreading it a little bit. I was not liking any of the characters, which isn't really important to me, that I like the characters, but I really was struggling with it, so I decided to just pick something else because I didn't want another bust. So what I ended up, I think I'm gonna read Room by Emma Donoghue, which is like an oldish book, but it was one of Martine's favorites from last year, or from 2023, and then it was one of Lizzie's in 2024 because of reading it for Martine. So I'm gonna read that. I think I have the audiobook for that, and it's slated to come up after I finish Bright Young Women, which I already know it's gonna be 5 stars. I knew at like the 30% mark, just something about it. I was just like, wow, I think this is, I was thinking if I finish this by the end of the year, it's gonna be my favorite book of the year, which is crazy. And which kind of happened last year also, when I had just some really good books in December sort of skew my view of like the whole rest of the year. So I'm kind of like, if I finish it in January, like by next December, maybe my thoughts about it will have diminished due to the passage of time. But I yeah, I think it's excellent. It's so terrific. It's so interesting to be reading it also after having just read The Stranger Beside Me. But the characters, God, the bright young women. The bright young women. It's so good. Wow. I don't even know. Just like, I'm loving it. I'm kind of almost done with it. So good one, Kayla. I think that's also on Lizzie's favorite list. But there was another book on Kayla's list that I actually was pretty interested in. So I thought about moving Bright Young Women over to Lizzie and picking a different Kayla book, but then I couldn't get that book from my library for like months. So we're doing room. And then the final one is Wayward, which I feel like I talked about. I had started the audiobook and I wasn't really vibing with it, so I was like not sure what to do, but then I got the ebook of it and I've been reading that and really enjoying myself, actually. So nothing really new to say about what it's about. It's sort of about a few generations or women from the same sort of family line who have a kind of magic. And men are bad is the other theme. And that's sort of an ongoing theme. There was one other thing I wanted to say. Oh, I just was watching Books and Lala's favorites of the year video, which, like, mild spoilers, I guess, if you haven't watched that video yet, but this video, who the heck knows when I'm posting it? So I'll just say she's talking about Sky Full of Elephants, which is the other Adriana book that I got like almost halfway through, and I was just like, I don't know. So I picked something else. But the way that Kayla was talking about it sort of made me think, like, she was like, for the first half I felt one way, but then in the second half, like, things really took off for me, and then it transformed into this thing that I, really, really loved. So I'm feeling motivated to try that again. I'm thinking that's also something that I should eyeball read. So I might just get to that sometime this year, but for the purposes of this video, I'm reading Wayward. So those are the final 3 books, and the crafts are crafting. You know what's funny? I started going back and editing the first video of this series, and the sewing ambitions I had, I kind of want to revisit some of them, actually. But one of the first things I said that I would do, I was like, maybe I'll do it literally right now, is put elastic in the sleeves of one of my dresses, and I still haven't done it. Isn't that just phenomenal? I'm gonna do it this weekend, okay? Because I've patched my pants, so that's done once I put them in the wash. And I'm gonna finish that wall also this weekend. And yeah, things are good. I am progressing. I've been doing a lot of, end of year, beginning of year spreadsheet work. I don't really share my, this is not, you don't need to know this. I don't share any of my book stats really, but I do track them extensively. Well, not that extensively, but it just depends on how much you track book things, whether or not you think I track them extensively, I guess. That's the update. I'm tired. I hope to finish some of these books soon. Okay, so I needed to do laundry to be able to show you really the final result of my jeans, but here it is. So you can see where it really did wear through here, and now there's this fabric on the inside, hopefully to just give it a little bit more sturdiness. So these are, these are good to wear still. Proud of that. Really pleased. Hello, I'm outside taking a walk. It is, wait, this is better. It's beautiful out here, and I thought now would be a wonderful time, since it's quite quiet because of the snow and there's basically no traffic, that I could talk about the book I finished last night, which is Bright Young Women. That makes it my first book of 2025, which, what a phenomenal way to start out the year. Loved putting that 5-star first on my spreadsheet. thought I saw someone. And what a time to be talking about it right now, as I am walking around alone in the middle of nowhere, basically. It's fine. Anyway, I gave that book an easy 5-star. It was so good. It's like I think maybe it should be mandatory reading for anyone who ever loved My Favorite Murder, because I think you'll really like it, especially if you're someone who used to like My Favorite Murder and then started to get some weird feelings about it. I think you would really like this. Basically, it takes the story that we all know, I guess, of Ted Bundy, who was so charismatic that he lured all these girls, or he, whatever, to their deaths at his hands. And he's just like any other guy. We got that from the Anne Rule perspective, where she's like, I knew him quite well, I thought, and I couldn't believe that he did these things. And so then we're getting this image of a serial killer, extremely violent serial killer, as, it could be anyone. And while I think there's an element of truth to that like you can't predict who, is secretly waiting to become violent men, this book, it kind of brought up the idea that like those women who, went with him because he was charismatic, he was attractive, he was polite, it's actually that they felt bad for him. He seemed a little weird, a little off, and they wanted to be helpful because that's how they're like trained to be. That's how we raise young women, is to be helpful and to go out of their way if someone is in need. And so they did, and that's what he used. That's how he manipulated them. So bright young women, at every point this book was like, isn't it interesting how like culturally that's the way that we're gonna react to this, or like that this is how people reacted, instead of like with empathy or by believing anyone, or just I don't know. I really loved it. I guess that's where I'm gonna end it, and to say also that last night after I finished Bright Young Women, I was again painting my living room wall. It is like almost done. I started Room by Emma Donoghue, which is the last book that I had to start. So now I have 2 more books for my friends' favorites, and they've been so good. My average rating for all of the books that I've read so far for this project is like a 4.6. I've given all 4s and 5s, which is phenomenal. I'm so excited. I love my friends. But yeah, I started the audiobook for Room last night while I was doing some knitting and cooking and stuff, and I don't know that much about it, actually. It's quite an old book, I think, not quite an old book, but it's an older book from like 2010 maybe. And I know it was a movie. I know that it's about a woman and her child who are trapped in a room. That's all I got. And I know that a lot of the story, or perhaps all of the story, is from the point of view of the child, who on the first page, it's his 5th birthday. So in the audiobook, there's a childlike voice for the narrator, which instantly I was like, oh no. But then I was like, you know what? I think I prefer to listen to books with this kind of thing. Like a different sort of dialect or a different way of speaking than what I'm used to. Oh, I have to get some B-roll of these falls on my way back because the ice on them is just gorgeous. I'm not done talking about Room. I think I'm going to have a better time getting through this book listening to it than reading it. I think reading a whole book in a child's voice, I would just struggle a little bit, versus listening to it, I think I won't struggle. So Good choice, me. Okay, while we're here, let me just quickly talk about Wayward, which I'm more than halfway done. And actually, I don't know how to talk about it because I don't want to give anything away. The story really unfolds itself very slowly. So you pick up bits and pieces from each of the women in their chapters, but then you also start to pick up bits and pieces about the other women from, you know, different chapters. Like one of the characters will be thinking about the generation before her, sort of thing. So, kind of out of breath. So that's a fun, like, kind of storytelling aspect to the book. I like the writing. I like how much it's about liking bugs and animals and stuff. That's kind of, I'm into that. And so far, none of the bug stuff is, like, too weird. It's just, like, wow, what an interesting moment for there to be a crow cawing. There are a lot of crows in the book. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about books. Thanks for joining me on this walk to chit chat. Look at this tiny little tree. Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown. How cute are all these little round things coming out of this? Oh my gosh. They're all little blobs. Round little guys. I just think that they're so cute. That's just all ice. Okay, in my car again. Trying a slightly different angle. I don't know if this is better. I finished Room, though, is what I have to say. I finished Room this morning while I was finishing up painting my walls. So I'll show you the wall, which is finally done, which I think I started in a video over the summer. Anyway, it's January and it's done. So that's good. I still do want to do the entire room, but I think now that I know the sort of process that it is, it's not that I don't want to anymore. It's just that I'm afraid because of how much tension there was in my home because of how long it took me to do this. Like, I think Connor was really not pleased, which I get. It didn't look, you know, it looked unfinished, and it was, and now it looks like it's just meant to be that wall, and it's fine. So whatever. Anyway, Room. Wow, I have some mixed feelings about it, to be honest. I don't think binging it in like 3 days was good for me, especially because I listened to like probably 3/4 of it on one day. I don't think that was for the best because it's quite intense. The story, which you may be familiar with and is based on a true story, about a woman who was held captive in an 11 by 11 foot room. And she becomes pregnant via her captor, who she's being kept in his shed, basically. And she has a son in the room. And I don't want to say too much about the whole plot of the book, but it was quite devastating. It was a really interesting psychological case study, I guess. And I just thought it was written really well, but I was like having a horrible time reading it. I was absolutely devastated consistently because to read about something like that happening as a third person narrator is one thing, but for it to be like from the child's perspective, to have the child be the narrator, just like really shifts it and made it just really rough. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. Yeah, I can't really say what was missing for it to be a 5-star. I did really like it, but like, I don't want to watch the movie. I don't want to think about it ever again, kind of. That's Room. I just wanted to give you a little bit of like a taste of what it's like in here. For Christmas, my mom got me these. Sorry, you can't see them like that. Can you see them like this? This is a big one. Then there's small ones too. Beep, beep. And medium ones. They're sewing clips, so I'm doing a huge squat to film like this. They're sewing clips, so instead of pinning something, which sometimes it can just be you know, it's fiddly or you're stabbing yourself or, you know, whatever. So for hems especially, it can be helpful to just, as you iron it, because you can slip this clip, you know, the bottom stays flat, and then the angle of the clippy part, you know. Anyway, so they came in a bag, and then I opened the bag because Connor needed to borrow one for something. I forget what, but it was perfect. And then I was like, oh yeah, I want to put these in a jar because we've got so many jars, and that's just how I'd like to store them. So I knew which jar I wanted, but at the time when I had that thought, this jar had some sauce in it and it was in the fridge. So I was like, I'm gonna wait for us to finish the sauce and then wash the jar and then I can put my clips in it. And it had a lid on it that actually also, we're down one lid. So like I could take the lid from this and put it on a different jar. Is bigger, so often more useful. And this one's like a cute one. It has grapes and stuff on it. So now I finally have the lid. So these have just been in a pile on my counter, and now they're in this jar, and I was like, I need a lid for the jar so that I can stick it in with my sewing machine box and they won't go everywhere. Obviously I could have used the lid from the mason jar lid, and then just get another lid for the other one. But instead, I made one. I had some scrap fabric and I cut out a big circle, you can kind of tell, and I just hand sewed around the edge of it. I flipped it inside out, and then I sewed another line. Can you see? But there's another line of stitching here. It's a light blue thread. It's not very neat at all. And then I threaded an elastic through there because I have this ball of elastic that my phone is kind of resting on while I film this. And ta-da, done. So this little craft probably took me 20 minutes max. Like, I was really not being careful with my stitches. I was just like, just make the thing and get it on. It would have been so much neater if I had gotten out my sewing machine and also used an iron. But I didn't, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, to clean one thing, you have to clean a different thing, and to then where that one has to go away, you have to clean up something else. It's like that in here right now. So anyway, this is a making vlog, I guess, on some level. So I made this cover for my stupid clips. They're not stupid, I love them very much. And now I can put this away. But now that I've got the elastic out, I'm gonna at least cut the pieces that I need to finish my dress. Hilarious. Okay, see, I got the elastic through. Here's the old one. And the new one, which you can see is much longer and stretchier. This one's really not very stretchy. This one's really stretchy. Sorry if I was just talking weird. I had this needle in my mouth. Anyway, so yeah, I sewed the elastic together after I put it through with some safety pins. And now I'm gonna sew these down with this, you know, not perfect match orange thread, but more subtle than black or white, I think. Okay, we've reached the end. First of all, I've got my fully re-elasticated sleeves on this dress that I have honestly been wanting to wear because it's actually just like the double gauze sort of fabric can be super warm, especially with like leggings under it. I feel like it would be totally appropriate and cute to wear around. So looking forward to being able to do that now that the sleeves are how I want them. And I'm done with everything else also. The books, I mean. So I finished Wayward, and that ended up actually being my least favorite of all the books. I just felt like by the time we reached the end, and this is something I've thought a lot about and talked a lot about kind of recently, but everyone has their sort of limit for how much sexual violence against women they can handle in a given book or like time frame. And I just feel like I have been reading for this challenge particularly like so many books where the men are at their absolute worst and they are committing crimes consistently, constantly, crime after crime. And like Wayward was my tipping point. So I don't know that I would have liked it better if I hadn't been reading so many other books with kind of similar themes. What was the most interesting to me and the most fun in this book was the magic, although there was frankly very little magic, and it was mostly just a story of women supporting each other and trying to like cope with the violence of patriarchy. I have to let my dog in. Come on. Oh, who's so chilly? Who's got cold little feet? Oh, sorry. Oh, you're actually not chilly. You're so warm. It's amazing what the sun can do when it's shining. Okay. Yeah, Wayward. I loved the magic. It was very like insect and like flying animal based, I think, which again, I really liked. I wish it had been more about the magic and less about like women having to suffer and the way that like women inherit suffering almost. I don't know. I was not really vibing with the overall themes and like messaging of the book. So yeah, I didn't love it. I also want to talk about Scorpio Racing, which is the book that I read for a friend who is outside of this little book group that I've been pulling from. And I have mentioned in this video, in the last video, I don't know, I read The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, which I've never read from her before. I have been interested to try out the Raven cycle. I wish I had read that as a young adult, because I think I would have probably really liked it just based on how other people talk about it. Not that I couldn't enjoy it now, because I did enjoy this book quite a lot. I don't like horse racing. Let's start there. Even if it's magical monster horses, I still don't like horse racing. So that was like something I was really struggling with in this book. But I still really liked it. I liked the small town kind of setting. It's an isolated island. I ended up really liking actually both our main characters. I didn't need them to have a romance, to be totally honest with you, but I kind of knew that it was going to have to happen. But it also like, it was very fitting to their personalities the way the whole thing unfolded, and I did really appreciate that. So yeah, still good. Yeah, I don't know, I had a good time. I gave it 4 stars, I think. My eyes got a little bit wet at the very end because of like how strongly the character bonds were like written. So yeah, I think great writing, good story. Justice for Dove, that was my other main complaint. The first thing is that I don't like horse racing, period, end of story. My second problem was that this race is bloodthirsty horses racing down a beach, and then this young lady thinks that she's gonna join this race with her regular horse. Like, it's so unfair to me. I can't believe that she would do that to her horse, like put her in such a scary situation, a truly dangerous, terrifying situation for this horse. Like, for what? I just like, there's really no justifying that to me. Again, it's the horse racing thing. It's so wrong. Yeah, my moral objection certainly was heavily present throughout the entire book, but I did still have a good time, so whatever. That's the last one. So stats. So I'm not including Scorpio Races in my official stats for this. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because I did read it. It was a favorite book of one of my friends, so that's that. I looked at last year's Friends Faves video and ratings, and my average rating for all the books that I read for that, the 7 books, was a 3.71 star, which is fine. My overall rating for last year, but I read those books mostly like in December of the year before that. So whatever. I tried to keep my average rating close to a 4. Like, I really want to be reading books I like, and the way that I keep it there is not by just rating books highly no matter what, but by DNFing. If I don't like a book, if I think it's gonna be like a meh 3, it's out. Anything that I'm reading till the end, I either have to read for some reason for some commitment, or it's because I think it has the possibility of being a 4 or a 5 star, and then like sometimes it ends up only being a 3, but like it, you know, it had potential. Anyway, yeah, 3.71 from last year. This year's average was a 4.29. I gave all 4s and 5s and then 1 3. I'm so pleased. I had 3 5s, 3 4s, and the 1 3. And like genuinely, I don't know, I really enjoyed this project way more than I thought I was going to. Like I thought I was going to enjoy it, but I really did. And I got a lot of little things done. I am presenting you with this finished wall behind me. So that's a huge feat for me. And I have so many other things to read and things I want to make now, and I'm just excited to be actually finished with this video and this project, because it's really I have other things that I want to read, and I've been so focused on this Friends Faves thing that's really been like all I'm looking at. So now I'm just like excited to branch out and read some other stuff. And I have some ideas about how I'm gonna be incorporating like everything I read into content going forward. We'll see, no promises. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for commenting. And hope to see you back here next year for this video again, but also sometime soon for something else. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm trying to post more just because I like it, so hopefully I'll see you soon. The end.